Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad. We are now less than an hour away from the new targeted T0 launch of SpaceX's BADR-8 mission launching from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. SpaceX teams continue to monitor the weather as we continue towards this next launch attempt. Only a 20 to 25% chance of launch happening this evening. We've already had one slip of the launch, but we wanted to go live, bring you a live look at the radar and the current weather conditions down here at the Space Coast as we continue towards SpaceX's new targeted liftoff time of 12:30 a.m. Eastern. The original launch time was 11:35, so almost an hour delay. Today's launch window does run until 1:32 a.m., so we do have another hour of time. SpaceX could delay should they require it, but this is to allow further time for the weather conditions to improve. If it's your first time, welcome here to the launch pad here at TOP. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have you joining us here live tonight. I know we got some of our rocket chasers located around the Space Coast ready for this evening's launch of a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. As always, if you want to learn more about today's mission, you can head over to tlpnetwork.com/launches and get your information on our detailed mission briefings. Today's booster 1062, going for its 14th launch attempt, or 14th launch mission. This will be the fourth ever SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket to go on 14 missions. Booster 1062 has supported two GPS-2 missions, the Inspiration 4 mission, Axiom AX-1 mission, one OneWeb mission, and a whole bunch of Starlink missions, as well as one NileSat mission. It had its first flight November 5th, 2020, launching out of here from Florida, and its entire flight history has been from the Space Coast, a majority from Cape Canaveral. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we will work on answering those live to the best of our ability. As we continue to expand these detailed mission briefings, if you're interested in joining the TLP crew, our applications are open on the About page. That's where you can sign up to be one of our TLP journalists or researchers, or consider applying to be a TLP moderator or other positions that are available as well. We are expanding our team as we continue to strive to bring you the best possible coverage of everything space, not only from here on the Space Coast, but globally around the world, because ultimately space is better together, and we're glad to have you here tonight. Now, T-minus 56 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting. We are now just under 20 minutes away from when we would expect SpaceX to conduct their go, no-go poll for propellant loading. That normally occurs at the T-minus 38-minute mark, and that's going to be a good sign that they're going to go for a launch attempt. Once they begin that sequence, it is a lot harder for them to recycle, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that and waiting for an update from SpaceX. Now, if this follows the last launch attempt we saw a few days ago, what we'll do is we'll get to that T-minus 38-minute mark, we'll wait a minute or two, we'll get an update that they've reset the T0, and that T0 delay could be 10 minutes, it could be half an hour, it could be an hour, but we now have on your screen there, end of launch window, T-minus 1 hour, 57 minutes, 45 seconds and counting, and keep in mind we need at least 38 of those minutes to run the launch sequence, so we're going to be keeping a close eye on that as we continue to approach the end of today's window. We are now 1 minute away from officially entering today's launch window. It opened at 11:35 p.m. Eastern Time, so right about now. This was the original targeted T0 for this evening, and then we had that 55-minute delay. We're continuing to monitor the weather conditions. Doesn't look like rain or lightning is the issue tonight. It does appear to be that wind, as well as possibly other parameters that SpaceX is monitoring. We, of course, will bring you updates as we have them, but as always, you can send in those questions in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those to the best of our ability. On the left screen, you are looking at a live view of the radar from the United States Space Force, and on the right side, this is data we get from NASA Kennedy Space Center's weather stations, but it does provide data for the Space Force side as well. These are looking at the wind readings at multiple different pads and at different elevations, and looking at the directions of those winds. We are also monitoring the current lightning watch warning or wind warnings. One of those screens, there we go. Cape Canaveral is in a strong wind warning. That's that third red one in the center on the right-hand side. And they do have consistent winds at a steady knot of about 12 to 16 knots. So we are monitoring those conditions as we continue to count down to launch. I'll be back with another commentary update shortly as we continue to count down towards the launch of SpaceX BADR-8 from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station here in Florida. Stay with us. And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are now just under 39 minutes and counting from the current T0 that SpaceX is targeting for the launch of BADR-8 from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. In 1 minute's time, that is when we should have the go-no-go for propellant loading, and we do have the mission control nets having gone live, so we are going to patch that in here. Just give me one brief moment to do so, and then we will listen in to the control nets as we continue to watch the weather closely as we continue towards today's launch attempt. The fact that the mission control nets have gone live, we can take as a very good sign that they are going towards a launch attempt here this evening. Do have those nets now patched in, so we'll be hearing anything that they say. We'll be listening in for that go no go for propellant load here any moment. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live as we continue throughout this evening. We should be now about 5 minutes away from the beginning of that RP1. Well, there we go. That is confirmation that they are going to go for prop load. We are going to be going into a launch attempt here this evening. If you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're looking at live weather conditions at Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where we are counting down now 36 minutes and counting until launch of BADR-8. We have just over an hour and 37 minutes left in today's launch window, but SpaceX has pulled go for propellant loading of the Falcon 9 Block 5 booster 1062, preparing for its 14th flight here this evening. We should have the propellant loading beginning in just about 30 seconds from now. That is when we expect to have RP1 loading beginning, as well as first stage LOX load beginning as well. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad. Here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have you joining us here. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that subscribe button, share out the stream as we continue to count down now T-minus 35 minutes, 3 seconds, and counting, listening in for that propellant load to begin. Waiting for that confirmation that prop load has begun on the Falcon 9 first and second stages.
Launch auto sequence has started.
and launch auto sequence start. That should signal propellant load has begun as well. T-minus 34 minutes and counting.
Stage 2 RP1 load is complete.
LD, this is MM. Spacecraft is on internal power.
Copy, spacecraft on internal power.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of SpaceX BADR-8 launching from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name is Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the launch pad, and we've been keeping a close eye on the weather, but SpaceX is going for a launch attempt here this evening. They're going to be getting their live coverage here momentarily, and of course, we will listen in to launch control. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. Make sure you take a moment, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage right here on TLP. Great to see so many people joining us from around the world. We got Apri
Stage 2
in
launch float has started.
Salt Springs, Florida. We've got
Stage 2
Maxim
launch float has
in
started.
Kazakhstan. We got Stefan in Alaska. Denise is in California. Power Play is in Florida. Ben is in bed in Atlanta, Georgia. We've got Dave in Oregon. Glenn's in Oregon as well. Great having you all joining us here this evening as we count down now just over 15 minutes, 30 seconds and counting until launch. Another launch attempt here for SpaceX BADR-8. We've been closely watching the weather over the last number of days. They are running the clock today, and at this point, this would be their most likely only launch attempt with today's launch window. That launch window closing an hour after this current T0, so we'll keep an eye on that once they pass closer to their terminal count. Weather at this time of year just is always like this, where we'll be monitoring the development of the lower winds as well as the lightning and thunderstorms in the region, as well as the rain. They can launch in rain, but they cannot launch if there is a risk of lightning during flight or a risk of the winds obviously being too high. But everything looking like it's cleared off well enough for them to have a launch attempt here tonight, hopefully clearing the way for a busy beginning of June. We have the Cargo Dragon mission, CRS-28, launching, as well as a number of other Starlinks to catch up on. It's been a little bit since we had a Starlink mission. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream as we continue to count down towards launch. Now, T-minus 14 minutes, 14 seconds, and counting on the clock. Welcome a few more people here. We got Jeffrey in Ontario, Canada. N3 is in Germany. We got Matt is in Florida. Erie, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, is in Nashville, Tennessee. And Ricky's in Tennessee as well. Glad to have you all joining us here for another early morning launch for those of us here on the Space Coast. Now 12:16 a.m. and we are just under 14 minutes and counting until launch. Now, as you can see, SpaceX is getting underway, so we will, of course, listen in to their mission control once they get started here. One thing we will point out is, because we are down here on site, when we get into that final couple minutes of the count, we're going to actually run outside and watch the launch tonight from the TOP Space Coast studio. But of course, we will be staying live here, and we will be back with more commentary coverage following the actual launch through booster landing and payload deployment. Payload deployment expected to occur 37 minutes into flight. We'll wait to have confirmation if we will have visuals of that, but it's a customer mission, so normally we will. As we count down now 13 minutes and counting till launch, let's listen in to SpaceX mission control as we count down to the launch of BADR-8 from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station here in Florida.
And thanks for joining us once again for the webcast of the Arabsat BADR-8 mission. My name is Ronnie Foreman, and I'm a sales manager here at SpaceX, joining you from our headquarters in Hawthorne, California. I'll be your host as we follow Falcon 9, taking the Arabsat BADR-8 payload to geostationary orbit from Florida's Space Launch Complex 40. If you've been following along, you know we had to stand down during Tuesday's launch attempt due to poor weather at the Cape. Although weather is looking a bit better today, it continues to be a watch item. We're hoping to find some clear weather, though, in time for our T0 of 12:30 a.m. Eastern, so we began propellant loading on the vehicle at T-minus 35 minutes. Our customer today is Arabsat, a satellite operator and leading satellite services provider carrying over 650 TV channels, 245 radio stations, and paid TV networks in more than 60 countries. The payload on board our second stage today, BADR-8, was built by Airbus and will provide connectivity over Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia. It features Airbus's innovative space demonstrator, Telio, to provide space-to-ground optical communications at gigabit speeds. Today's launch is our second with Arabsat. We first launched Arabsat 6A on our Falcon Heavy rocket in 2019. We'll have more information from our customer a little bit later in the webcast. At T-minus 11 minutes and 42 seconds and counting, the vehicle and spacecraft are both healthy. The range is ready to support, but if we're not able to launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow. On your screen right now is a live view of our two-stage Falcon 9 rocket that stands at around 230 feet tall, or about the length of 4 bowling lanes stacked end-to-end on top of each other. Starting from the bottom, the Falcon 9 first stage is equipped with 9 Merlin M1D engines that help the vehicle accelerate through the Earth's atmosphere and into space before separating from the rest of the rocket. As you might be able to tell just by looking at it on your screen, the first stage, which is also referred to as the booster, makes up 2/3 of the entire vehicle. Today's booster is flying for its 14th time tonight, having previously supported GPS-3, Space Vehicle 4 and 5, Inspiration 4, Axiom 1, Nilesat 301, OneWeb Launch 17, and 7 Starlink missions. For today's launch, we will be attempting to recover our booster using our drone ship, Just Read the Instructions, which you can see on your screen there, is currently stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. Above the first stage is the second stage, which is what will carry the Arabsat BADR-8 payload to space. The second stage houses a single Merlin vacuum, or MVAC engine, which ignites after stage separation. The satellite right now is safely enclosed inside of the 17-foot diameter payload fairing that you can see on your screen. Made of carbon composite material, the fairing protects the satellite on its way to space. Once we reach the vacuum of space, the fairing halves will be jettisoned approximately 3 minutes into flight. Both fairing halves supporting today's mission are flight-proven, with one half flying for its 8th time and the other for its 9th. After fairing separation, both of those fairing halves will begin falling back to Earth again, where we'll attempt to recover them using our recovery vessel, Bob. And right behind the rocket, or right next to it now on your screen, the large truss structure that you see is the Transporter Erector, or TE. We use the TE both to roll the rocket out to the pad and raise it to its vertical launch position. The TE also routes the vehicle's fluids, power, and telemetry umbilicals from the ground systems to the rocket and satellite until Falcon 9 switches to internal power and clears the launch pad. At liftoff, the TE will retract away from the rocket in order to clear the way for Falcon 9's ascent. And with liftoff for today's mission currently set at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time, here are a few words from the President and CEO of Arabsat.
Ladies and gentlemen, greetings and welcome to the Arabsat BADR-8 satellite launch. I'm thrilled to be here today to celebrate this momentous occasion with all of you. I'd like to express my gratitude to Airbus, our satellite manufacturer, for providing us with the latest technology and expertise, and for our standing relationship that has spanned over 25 years. Their contribution has been crucial to the success of this project, and we couldn't have done it without them. I would like to thank SpaceX for their valuable contribution to this project. Their expertise in launch services has been instrumental in bringing the BADR-8 satellite to its designated orbit today, and we are honored to have them as our partners. The BADR-8 satellite is a state-of-the-art addition to Arabsat orbital position 26 degrees east. It offers a wide range of services for satellite communications, television broadcasting, and information exchange in C and Ku frequency bands. BADR-8 will be joining our BADR satellite network at Arabsat 26 East hotspot and bringing advanced technologies and extended coverage with multiple bands to enable broadcasting partners to get their content to their audience in MENA, Central Asia, and North and West Africa effectively. This new satellite enhances our capabilities and capacities to meet the modern and advanced solutions our customers expect. And we are excited about the opportunities that it will bring. Our leading role in the Middle East and North Africa regions for satellite broadcasting and communications will also be strengthened. The launch is one of Arabsat's most strategic projects, making significant milestones for our organization and the Arab world. This launch is one of Arabsat's most strategic projects, making a significant milestone for our organization and the Arab world. We are proud of our achievements, and we look forward to continuing to provide innovative and reliable satellite solutions to our customers. Thank you for joining us to this journey, and we are excited about what the future holds for Arabsat and our partners.
As I mentioned earlier, Arabsat BADR-8 will be going to a geostationary orbit. We talk about a few different orbits in our various webcasts here at SpaceX, such as low Earth orbit, or LEO, and medium Earth orbit, or MEO. Our orbit today, geostationary orbit, is usually called GEO for short. We just heard the call out there. The names for those orbits typically dictate how far into space they're going from Earth. In order to get the rocket and our payload into any orbit, the rocket has to not only go up really fast, but also has to go sideways. As we ascend, we tilt the engines. The technical term for that is called gimbaling, and that turns the rocket horizontally. Now we're still going up, but we are also heading horizontally away from the launch pad in what we call a gravity turn. The rocket typically needs to go about 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and reach orbit. To help demonstrate this concept, imagine firing a cannon from a really high mountain. The cannonball will arc, and then gravity will pull it down to Earth. As you increase the power, the cannonball will arc and land further and further away. Eventually, if you could continue to increase the power, the cannonball would be going so fast that it would end up in free fall around the Earth. Gravity is still pulling down on the cannonball, but it's going so fast that it never hits the ground. This arc, which constantly misses the Earth, is called an orbit. Falcon 9 effectively does the same thing as the cannon in this example. It provides enough power and horizontal velocity to the satellite
Tanks
on
are
board the
pressing
second
for
stage
Strongback retract.
that the spacecraft is placed in orbit around the Earth. You'll be able to see this tonight by watching the orientation of Falcon 9 right after liftoff. Be sure to keep an eye out in just a few minutes. In just about 20 seconds here, we'll see the clamp arms that you can see just below the base of the fairing begin to open. When the clamp arms fully open beneath the fairing,
Strongback retract has started.
there we actually heard the call out that strongback retract is about to begin. The TE is now going to pull away from the vehicle slightly in preparation for liftoff. The first stage is connected to a launch mount at the base of the TE, but the structure is hinged. And at T-0, ground hydraulic systems will pull the TE even further away from Falcon 9 as it lifts off. And as you've heard on the Nets call out there, we sometimes call the TE the strongback. And there on your screen now, you can see that the clamp arms have fully opened. At this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. The stages should finish loading propellant about a minute apart from each other. The first stage will finish up at about T-3 minutes, and the second stage at T-2. You can also see those white clouds drifting away from the side of the vehicle right now. Those are actually vented chilled gas from above the LOX tank liquid surface that we vent overboard to maintain pressure in the tank as needed. When that gas comes out into the warm Florida air, it condenses into actual clouds.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
There's the call out that Stage 1 LOX load has completed. At T-60 seconds, Falcon 9 will be in startup. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. Just inside of T-2 seconds, we light the Merlin 1D engines for liftoff. Right now, the Arabsat BADR-8 payload continues to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. With just about 2.5 minutes before liftoff, weather continues to be a watch item, but we're moving forward to see if we can find some clear weather for our T0 of 12:30 a.m. Eastern. The range is ready to support today's launch. But if for some reason we're not able to launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow around the same time.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
That call out over the nets means that the vehicle is now fully loaded with liquid oxygen.
Ground gas closeouts.
Again, that white cloud you see venting from the side of Falcon 9 is totally normal. Really lovely nighttime shot there, too.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There's that call out that Falcon 9 has transitioned to internal power.
Go for launch.
We love to hear that call out. With that, the LD has announced that we have our final go for launch. So at T-37 seconds, all systems are go for the launch of Falcon 9 and Arabsat BADR-8.
T-30 seconds. 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go AirSat. Vehicle pitching downrange. Stage 1 engine chambers, pressures are nominal.
Moving through the clouds there, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from pad 40. Coming up next, we'll throttle down the 9 Merlin engines on the first stage to prepare for max Q at about T plus 1 minute and 12 seconds.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Vehicles on the right track. Now, as you may already know, max Q is the period of flight with the highest amount of aerodynamic pressures, so it's one of the critical flight milestones we're tracking. Again, we expect that here in just about
Vehicle supersonic.
10 seconds, and with that call out, we hear that Falcon 9 is moving faster than the speed of sound.
Max Q.
With that call out, we now have 3 events coming up in quick succession, so I'm going to talk through all of them right now. We'll start with MECO, followed by stage SEP, and then SES-1. Main engine cutoff, or MECO, is where all 9 M1D engines shut down on the first stage to slow the vehicle down in preparation for the next event,
has started.
which is stage separation, or stage SEP for short. That's where the first stage separates from the second. Right after stage SEP, the first stage will start its journey back to Earth for landing on our drone ship. Just read the instructions. During that time, stage 2 will continue on its journey to space with a third event in this sequence, Second Engine Start 1, or SES-1. This is where the MVAC engine lights up and propels the second stage along with the ArabSat payload to orbit. Right after these 3 major events, the fairing halves will separate less than a minute after SES-1, so keep an eye out for that too. And again, all of these events are going to start here in just about 10 seconds.
And MECO.
Stage separation.
With that, we have confirmation of main engine cutoff, stage separation, and you can see there on the right-hand side of your screen, Second Engine Start 1. While the first stage burn is in progress, we are expecting second stage burn is in progress, we are expecting fairing deployment as well.
Fairing separation.
Wow, great view of fairing separation there on the right-hand side of your screen. It is now T plus 3 minutes and 40 seconds into today's mission. In order to complete today's landing, the first stage has 2 burns.
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
The first stage has 2 burns left. Right now, we're watching the MVAC burn on the second stage. Next up, the first stage will perform its entry burn, where 3 of the Merlin 1D engines will reignite. This helps to slow the Falcon 9 first stage down as it re-enters the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. That entry burn should start just about 2 minutes and 15 seconds from now and will last about 20 seconds. Just in case you are just joining us, we had a successful liftoff today at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time from Pad 40 in Cape Canaveral, Florida. We had successful liftoff, MECO, stage SEP, fairing separation, and ignition of our second stage engine, which you can see on your screen right now.
Both vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
And hearing from Mission Control that both vehicles are right on track. The second stage burn is expected to last a few more minutes, and the first stage is expected to start its first of 2 planned burns in order to land on our drone ship. Interestingly, the Merlins on the first stage and second stage are quite similar. The Merlins on stage 1 are optimized for sea level, and these achieve about 190,000 pounds of thrust during ascent and descent. The MVAC engine, which we're watching now, is optimized for 220,500 pounds of thrust in vacuum. One of the other things we'll use to support landing of the first stage are the landing legs made of carbon fiber and aluminum honeycomb, placed symmetrically around the outside of the vehicle. Those are stowed at the base of the booster and then deployed just prior to landing. As we come up on the start of that entry burn, just a quick reminder that this will be a 3-engine burn meant to slow down the first stage as it hits the thicker layers of the Earth's atmosphere. And even though we are preparing for that stage 1 entry burn, we are still getting these great views from space of our second stage MVAC engine. We are expecting this burn of the MVAC to last another 2 minutes. Starting to get some views from the first stage on the left-hand side of your screen now, and you can continue watching the telemetry in the lower corner.
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There's the confirmation that we've started that first entry burn. Again, this is going to be the first of 2 before we hopefully stick to landing.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
There's confirmation that we've completed the stage 1 entry burn. Meanwhile, stage 2 continues on its trip to space.
Both vehicles continue to follow anomalous trajectories.
With confirmation of entry burn shutdown, we have one more burn before the first stage attempts to land on our drone ship, and that's landing burn. During the first stage landing burn, a single Merlin engine will relight and slow the vehicle down for its 14th landing attempt on our drone ship. Just read the instructions.
Expected loss of signal, Cape.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Next major milestone we're
Stage
tracking.
1 transonic.
The next major milestone we're tracking here is the call out for second engine cutoff
Stage 2
1
FTS has saved.
in just about 10 seconds.
Eco 1. Stage 1 landing burn. Nominal orbit insertion.
There we've got the call out for second engine cutoff 1 and nominal orbit insertion on our second stage. Right now we are watching
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
There you just saw a successful 14th landing for this particular booster, which also marks our 195th overall successful recovery of an orbital class rocket, including both Falcon 9 and Heavy first stages. With confirmation of successful second engine cutoff and first stage landing, we're going to be in a coast phase until just before the second relight of our MVAC engine on the second stage, which will be followed by payload deployment. So sit tight, and we'll see you back here around the T plus 28-minute mark.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are now counting down to payload deployment of BADR-8. Absolutely another beautiful launch here on the Space Coast. Falcon 9 booster 1062, the 4th Falcon 9 to ever fly on a 14th mission, safely back on Earth on the drone ship. If it was your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we invite you to engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, docking, undocking, or return to Earth right here on TLP. We've got AX2 coming home in a couple of days, and then the launch of CRS-28, cargo resupply up to the International Space Station. We'll be covering that all right here on the Launchpad. As always, during the coast phase, we're going to answer your guys' comments and questions. So you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll do our best to answer those to the best of our ability. Just make sure you tag us at the Launchpad, and you will be able to get those answered here as we count down now 26 minutes, 20 seconds, and counting until payload deployment. Next major milestone in the count is going to be that final burn of the MVAC engine. That second stage will ignite T plus 29 minutes into flight for a quick 1 minute burn, finalizing its orbit, followed just 7 minutes later by payload deployment. Catching up on the chat, seeing what questions we got coming in tonight. Just make sure you're tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those live. But another fantastic launch here this evening. Finally got off the ground. The weather held, and even with that, today's weather was only a 20-25% chance go for launch. SpaceX ran the clock, delayed 60 minutes, and they were able to get clear skies and actually have a launch attempt here this evening. John at home, is that the moon or a star in the background? That is our sun. So you can see the glow on the globe. That is the reflection of the sun in the animation to give you a rough idea of day and night, depending where the payload is. Shane, thanks again for a great live stream, Launchpad. Appreciate it. Jonathan, how soon for deployment? 25 minutes till payload deployment. The clock is in the top left corner there. That'll count down to payload deployment. Little glitch there in their animation. We'll take a quick commentary break, and we will be back just before second stage ignition. That'll occur at T plus 29 minutes into the flight. Stay with us right here on the Launchpad as we count down now to payload deployment of BADR-8.
Welcome back to the live webcast for the Arabsat BADR-8 mission. If you're just joining us, liftoff occurred at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time from Space Launch Complex 40 in Florida. After liftoff, we also had successful main engine cutoff, stage separation, landing of our first stage, and confirmation of a good orbital insertion following the first MVAC burn. Coming up shortly, we'll have our second MVAC burn before payload deploy.
Back ignition.
With confirmation of MVAC ignition, we're looking forward to this burn lasting about a minute. This will be our last burn of Stage 2 today before we deploy the BADR-8 payload. You can continue watching the telemetry for Stage 2 in the bottom corner of your screen. Expecting just about another 10 seconds of this burn.
TECO 2.
There we have confirmation of MVAC shutdown.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And with that confirmation of a successful second engine burn, we'll join you live to cover payload deployment in about 5 minutes. We'll see you in a few. launch webcast. We've had a successful mission so far, with liftoff at 12:30 a.m. Eastern, the successful landing of our first stage, and 2 relights and shutdowns of our second stage engine. Now we're coming up on our last major milestone, which is payload deployment, and that should happen here in just about 20 seconds. Our customer today, Arabsat, is a satellite operator and leading satellite services provider. The payload on board our second stage today, BADR-8, will provide connectivity over Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia.
Payload separation confirmed.
There's that gorgeous view on your screen there of the successful deployment of the Arabsat BADR-8 payload. With that confirmation, we'll bring today's webcast to a close. We want to thank our customer Arabsat for entrusting us with today's mission and all of you for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
And with that, BADR-8 is on its way in orbit. If it was your first time here, make sure you engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, docking, undocking, or return to Earth right here on the launch pad, because here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. But from our TLP Space Coast studio, my name's Zach, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.